welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always, our resident football expert, Tate Mathews. Tate, week 2 in the books, week 3 on top of us right now. Really good slate of games in week 2, starting with the border battle. Man, you're talking about a really good game, back and forth between these two clubs. Several things came up to the top for me, right? Obviously, we knew TJ Sheffield is special. There's no doubt about that.
Game changer.
Nathan Cisco, I believe, had that game we've been looking for. It was kind of a breakout game. He played really well. We'll get to his stats in a moment. But I think the overarching thing for me is Summit is better than I thought they were.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I'm sure that all the people out there watching are like on the edge of their seat on that. But I really, I didn't know how good Summit was. This team, I even made the comment, I think this team may be better than last year's.
Well, the thing that gave you where you didn't really know is that Spring Hill game. That Spring Hill score, I'm sure you're sitting there going, that was a head-scratcher. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because they're, cross-county rivals, if it's the first game of the season, whatever. But you go back through the history of Coach Coleman being there and that Spring Hill game, it's been a tough game for them. I don't know why, but it is. So, but yeah, I mean, some people, we talked about that on game day, some people think their front seven on defense, and then also their linemen might be better than last year. Here's what we do know. This is what I was excited to see. Gio, we already knew he was a player. Over 102 yards rushing for a touchdown. They pulled out the old Ty Carter halfback pass for a touchdown. So Odumegwu had a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, and then he also had a 27 or a 33-yard receiving touchdown. So he's a guy who can do it all. And so as we see, and we've talked about this, I don't think they're going to be anybody on their schedule, at least not in the next few weeks, that look anything like Independence. And then the freshman, Destin Wade, played quarterback. He threw that touchdown pass to Odumegwu. He's different, man. He's an athlete. So the things that I saw for Summit, you talked about the three-headed attack of George Odumegwu. What you don't see in the stats, and what we don't talk about a whole lot, is he came in and had to play defensive back, safety in that backfield for Summit, made some hard hits, made some good plays. Matter of fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was the first time that he'd played defense. We're all like, well, does he know what to do? It doesn't matter. He's an athlete.
Are you kidding me? Let him ball hawk and make the play, and that's what he did. You go back to Destin Wade, freshman, quarterback. One play sticks out to me. He gets flushed out of the pocket. He rolls to his left after he spins out of it right. Defense is pursuing. He hits a little check down right over that first wave of attack coming for a first down. Big play, heads up for a freshman to think that 6 months ago he was out there against the middle schools. Yeah. And now he's up there in the biggest game of his life up until this point playing against Independence. Now, Independence wins this game 42-32. It was back and forth. Independence had 2 big stops that really separated this game, but then Summit makes a late charge at the very end. But TJ Sheffield, unbelievable player. We knew that going into this game. He has a remarkable game, 165 yards on catches, 4 rushes for 37 yards, and then a 33-yard punt return. Not only does TJ Sheffield, the only weapon they have, Isaiah Collier leads us into the WCTV Play of the Week on the jet sweep.
Indy again out for a little revenge. They were spanked last year by these Summit Spartans, 31-17. And coming off a big loss last week to Oakland High School out of Murfreesboro, but they seem to be clicking on all cylinders tonight as Collier dances his way, weaves, finds the left side of the field, and Collier all the way for the 44-yard touchdown. Isaiah Collier with his second touchdown of the night.
Once again, you have eyes on Sheffield. Collier was able to sneak past that linebacking core, get into the secondary, and use his speed, being able to beat out Summit's defense for the touchdown, only on 2 plays for the Eagles.
Jet sweep, Tate. I've got the wheel route. I've now got the jet sweep into my repertoire.
Those are 2 good ones. They're dangerous plays, but great job by the tackle and the H-back, fullback, whatever you want to call it, doubling on that and kicking that linebacker out, which is what they needed. They sealed off that tackle and space. That's all they're looking for with TJ Sheffield, and also now with Isaiah Collier. They got him to the second level, and it's hard to catch those guys. He took it to the house. He's an explosive young man. He had 124 total yards, 2 total touchdowns. That was one of them. Those two guys they're special. If they can find one more guy or two more guys in that receiving core, it'll start to look like the ones that they had on those 29-1 run they had. But those two guys are athletes; they can play anywhere, and that was there were a lot of big plays in that game, but that was as big of as any of them.
Independence moves to 1-1 overall. Summit also goes to 1-1 as well. Neither one have played a conference or region game, which is coming up this week. Cane Ridge 27, Brentwood 24. This is one of those games that lived up to the billing. Everybody knew it was going to be a really good game. Cane Ridge, the odds-on favorite in the mid-state to be the best 6A public school team. What do we know about this game?
Well, you knew it was going to be a good game, and they met twice last year and split, and then going into this year, they're both. It's a little bit different. They're both inexperienced in some spots and experienced in others. They've got their quarterback back, and obviously Brentwood is playing a sophomore at quarterback. But then there are some other areas where they're not. But you knew it was going to be a great game, and it lived up to the billing. 27-24. Brentwood came back, had a chance to tie it up and win it. But the thing I think is kind of most exciting is, we talked about last week, Cade Granzow really played most of the game, the sophomore quarterback. Had 2 interceptions last week against Franklin. He cuts that down to 1 this week against a very good and very athletic Cane Ridge team, 241 passing yards. So Cane Ridge, they're going to be in that conversation once we get into playoffs. I don't know where we're going to shake out, but we know that our guys are going to have to go through them. So this is a really good team. Had a chance, scored 24 points against them. I think in week 2 with a sophomore quarterback, you got to be very pleased with that. Jordan Nicholas played well again. Carter McKechnie played well again. It's good to see that running game doing well because with the wide receiving core that they have. And again, those are two guys. Not very many people are going to line up and be able to play man. I don't know if they did, but I'm guessing they did some or a lot. Not many people can play Williams and Bishop man. Cane Ridge is one of the ones that can.
Well, you mentioned Granzow, 241 yards on 15 of 25 passing, only 1 interception like you mentioned. It's a lot of yards against a very good team.
That's right.
As a sophomore. The Bishop McKechnie receiving group, 147 yards combined in there. Obviously, we mention them every week, and that is the key for them to win. They have to get everybody involved. I think this week's game against Dixon, there'll be more than just those two guys contributing. I think all the receivers will be with some high numbers and an opportunity to score.
Well, without a doubt. And it was 7-7 at the half. And then they gave up 20 third quarter points, then came back in the fourth. So I don't really know what happened in that third quarter, but that's not like them to give up 20 points. You know what I'm saying? So that is something that you can rest assured they will learn from. Coach Crawford will get that corrected. So, again, it's a loss, but I don't think it's anything to be too worried about.
Franklin, 24 over Riverdale, 24-7. Great game for the Rebels to bounce back, get back in that winning column. That moves them to 1-1. What do we know about the Rebels?
Huge game. I think a huge win for the Rebels and Coach Webb. I think the biggest thing that came out of it, and I think Coach Webb, I know Coach Webb would tell you, I talked to him about it this weekend. Very first play of the game. Now, we're coming off a disappointing season last year for the Rebels, right? Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
First play of the game, 80-yard touchdown pass for the Warriors. How did the Rebels respond? They turned around and responded by winning 24-7. You know what I'm saying? Who knew? They came off a very close loss to Brentwood last week, like they did the previous year, and then it kind of was like the wheels fell off. They bounced back. They showed grit, fought back, and won against a very good Rutherford County team.
And that's a lot to say. A year ago, folded up on a big play. And, we're talking about high school football. That happens a lot. There's a lot of mental aspect to this game, if you feel sorry for yourself, you're going to get hammered, right?
That's right.
So it's one of those deals where you've got to get back. This is a good measuring stick, like you mentioned, for this team, for the Rebels to bounce back. Hey, you had some adversity on the first play, so what? Let's tighten it up, get the things done that need to happen for us to win, and obviously they did.
I think they did. So that kind of shows you it's a different locker room, leadership. It's got to be, right? And so here's the most impressive thing. They had 80 yards on the first play from scrimmage, okay? After that, they ran 38 more plays for a total of 56 yards. That's lights out against anybody. You know what I'm saying? So played great defense, and then Joshua Nichols, he follows up his week 1 performance, which was a very solid one, with another really good one, and three touchdown passes. One of them a 64-yard touchdown pass to Chancellor Bright, who we already know gives them a dimension in the wide receiving position that they haven't had in a while. A guy that can stretch the field, big play. Matt Gacka had a touchdown reception, and Brock Holthouse had one. So 3 different receivers, 3 touchdowns for Joshua Nichols. This guy can throw the ball, man. We kid tongue in cheek. We might really have Dr. Defense / shotgun 5 wide.
Air well. We're going to change it. Air well. They love it. I know the fans love it. I know that he loves the winning, regardless of what it takes. I'm not sure that the throwing doesn't make him a little uncomfortable, but it's okay.
And still running the ball well, too.
He's got a good quarterback. Good things are going on for the Rebels. It's going to be interesting moving into Week 3. Not only that, into Region 6A play for the Rebels. They've got them all lined up, ready to go, with the exception of Brentwood, obviously already been played, but you've got Ravenwood left, you've got Dixon left, you've got Centennial Battle Franklin left. A lot of good games left for them. And, you got to win a couple of those to get yourself into the playoffs and remove that monkey off your back of getting back into the playoffs. I think the Rebels, before the year's out, could really, really turn some heads.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, but, going into the season, Coach Webb said that he thought his defense was the strength of this team. Who knows? We're only 2 weeks in, but they held Brentwood to 17 points. Cane Ridge, who we just talked about how good they are, they couldn't hold them under 20. I don't think very many, as the season goes on, I don't think very many people, if anybody's going to hold Brentwood under 20. They did, and then they turn around. We don't know how good Riverdale is, but again, they held them to 7 points, and that was on the first play from scrimmage.
Pretty much 3 quarters.
I think this defense is pretty good. Maybe real good.
So let's go back. Dr. Defense. Hendersonville gets the best of Centennial, 52-26. Cougars, they've got to get back. They've got to figure out a way to get this thing, rally around Jariel Wilson, another big game for him, over 100 yards in rushing. What do we know about this game?
Well, the positives are, like you mentioned, Jariel he might be the most explosive playmaker in the region and the conference. 10 carries, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, and again, he's maybe the best DB around. So you got a playmaker in him. Another positive, Grayson Marcel had I believe an 80-yard, over 70-yard touchdown, long touchdown pass to David Amos. That's the second week in a row where they've had long touchdown passes. So they're finding ways to score points and strike quick. Problem is they gave up way too many on defense. Now, Hendersonville's big, physical, run that wing tee. It's tough. And so I think maybe we didn't realize how good Hendersonville was because they lost in week 1. Well, they got beat by what we now know is a pretty good Blackman team. So 52 points, I don't care who it is. I know Coach Kreisky's not happy about that, but they scored 26. So positives, they're finding ways to score points, but they got to get better on defense, and they got to get better quick.
Fairview 49, White House Heritage 22. It was Popcorn City. Well, let me back up. It was 1 point away from Popcorn City. They missed a point after going into halftime. It was 34-0.
That's it's about as good as it gets.
It makes us look like we know what we're talking about, right?
Right. Never good to get them after a battle of 840 loss, and they just keep getting better. The offensive line is. They play in the loss to Page. They played really well. They won the time of possession. So they've got a really good offensive line. What we now know is we got a good running back in Nardozzi. He was over 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns. We got a really good quarterback in Brock Harris. He was right around 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, you mentioned it was 34-0. I'm guessing they didn't play much in the third and fourth quarter, and he's right at 200 yards. And then, obviously, Cam Harris-Luss did his thing again, making big plays. So this is going to be an offense that can score points, no doubt about it. If the defense can come along for the ride, they're going to win a lot of games. Cam
Harris-Luss, 3 catches for 94 yards. You mentioned Nardozzi, 139 yards on only 9
I like him.
It's only, probably in a half.
I like him.
Literally,
he's a good player.
2 quarters, 139 yards.
Pretty good.
Behind that big offensive line, like you mentioned, the Jackets, the sky's the limit for this group on that 3A level. One of the most exciting games of week 2, Page 38, Nolensville 35. Nolensville was up big early, had a commanding lead. Page comes roaring back at the end to seal the win, 38-35.
38-35. Now, what that doesn't tell you is they were down 28-7 at halftime. That's a big comeback. You know, almost as big as the Ravenwood comeback last week, but a little bit differently. So, you know, there's two things you take out of it. If you were wondering if Nolensville is for real, they're for real. And then this Page team sitting here at 2-0 against what we just talked about is a really good Fairview team, and now against a really good Nolensville team. So Page down 28-7. Cade Walker 3 more touchdowns.
He's playing great right now.
He's playing
too.
great. He's throwing the ball as well as anybody. 5 more touchdowns. So now he's got a total in 2 weeks of 8, 9 touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns. Now the problem, they were, I think, all in the first half, 3 interceptions. So we got to clean that up. But 5 touchdowns against anybody's big. He's playing the ball really well and throwing the ball really well, which right now is what they have to do. So if you talk to Coach Rathbone, he's very pleased with the amount of points they're scoring. He's very, very pleased with the passing game. Michael Burdick, had over 100 of those, and 3 of those touchdowns were to him. What a playmaker that dude is. But at some point, we're going to have to develop a running game.
Colton Dooley, 8
Colton Dooley.
touchdowns in 2 games. Huge game for him, 174 yards rushing. This young man is playing extremely well for Nolensville. You're right, Nolensville is for real. I think Nolensville, if they can rebound mentally, which they will, it's just part of the adversity that you have to face during a normal schedule, a really tough schedule here in Williamson County, for one. But, you know, they've scheduled some really good region games. This is being one of them. You got Page. They also play, if I'm not mistaken, Brentwood coming up. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's okay. You know, you're playing really good teams. They're on the 4A level. They have their first region game against Spring Hill, and 0-2 Spring Hill Kane coming in. They've got to think they can win. They've got to have that winning mentality. It's one of those things when you talk to Coach Derrick, it's like, we just hadn't learned how to win yet. It's just one of those things that come. These kids were in that process last year in the playoffs. They win a game. You know, now they've got to be able to seal these games up. When they have that big lead, what do? You can't start making those mistakes and
That's right.
lose focus, because these teams are going to come roaring back like Page did. They don't want to lose. So you've got to be able to put your foot down on the accelerator and keep going on that. And, you know, that's not any kind of earth-shattering information, but everybody knows that. But it's just part of that winning process of this team being young and going through.
Well, it was the tale of 2 halves. Obviously, in the first half, they could do no wrong, and then the second half, it flipped. And then, you know, I believe the young man, Ryder Gallardi, I believe is his name.
Had a good game.
Shout out to him. He steps in at quarterback, man. Scored 35 points against Page. He had 2 touchdown passes, over 260 passing yards. Well, you couple that with the 174 of Colton Dooley's, they put up a lot of offensive yards. So that's not easy to do, man. We were talking about what Destin Wade coming in as a freshman, but to come in that environment, that's his first start. I'd say he's got to be pretty proud of that performance.
Ravenwood 21, Siegel 17. Week 2 for Ravenwood. Another close game. Is it a process of you've got the target on your back, or is it a process we're still trying to get things figured out?
I think it could be both, and you know, who knows? We don't know yet. Maybe they played 2 good teams, you know. But, you know, it's totally different than last year. They've got all the preseason hype. A lot of people are picking them to go to Cookeville or be in that conversation. And I don't know, whatever that top 25 poll was this week, I think they're at number 3 or number 4 or whatever. So, you know, but I know this. They went against 2 good coaches, 2 defensive coaches that are always going to have a good defensive game plan. And but the bottom line is they're 2-0.
2-0.
And we know they got some playmakers. We already know what Brian Garcia can do. Didn't have his biggest night stat-wise as far as passing yards, but he did have 2 touchdown passes and rushed for 1. Tony Rice at the tailback position, right around 150, 148 yards. So we know they can pass it and run it. And like we saw last week against Centennial between Holmes and Mason, they've got playmakers. So the pieces are there. I think they've just played 2 tough teams. I wouldn't be real worried if I was a Raptor fan.
Well, they've got big game this week, like we mentioned earlier, Franklin. So let's get straight into week 3. What's coming up this week, Tate? A lot of big games, region implications all on the table right now for the WCS Sports Conference all across our complete slate of games. So let's start right there with Ravenwood. Ravenwood 2-0, 1-0 currently in 6-6A versus Franklin, who is 0-1. Big game for Franklin. We mentioned that. You know, Franklin needs to find that region win outside of that Centennial game, I feel like, as it's coming the way it's kind of shaping up. What gives in this game?
Well, I think it's Franklin's defense and running game versus the explosive offense of Ravenwood. If they can, I think we think Franklin has a really good defense. So can they limit the big plays of Ravenwood? But even the better defense is if that running game of Franklin can limit the amount of touches that Ravenwood has. That's what happened in Centennial. They kept scoring so quick or punting it back. They kept giving them the ball back. You don't want to give these guys too many offensive opportunities because sooner or later they're going to score. So how good is Franklin's defense? And then can the running game keep them off the field? Obviously, when you have a shot to Chancellor Bright, take it. If he can make some, I think that's the keys for Franklin. And then obviously for Ravenwood, keep getting that ball back to your offense. The more times they're on the field, they're going to find the end zone sooner or later.
Something that's interesting, Franklin has scored often and early, right? You look at the Brentwood game, they score first, kind of take a lead, hold that lead for a while. Outside of that play that you were talking about against Riverdale, score early, right, get a lead. Raptors have been the reverse of that. They've been the second half team, right? They're the ones that come out and held the Centennial Cougars to -1 yards in the second half total in week 1. I think this one is going to be really close.
I think this is a good game.
I think the Raptors are in for another close game in week 3, 3 straight close games. Pack a lunch, buckle up. This is going to be one of those games. It's going to be down to the wire. Obviously, whoever makes the least amount of mistakes down the stretch is going to win this game.
Yeah, and then if Franklin could get it, that puts them at 1-1 and Ravenwood 1-1. Franklin's right in the middle of it. Already have played Brentwood, that would leave them with Independence. And hey, we'll talk about it in a second, but Dixon County is 2-0. So I think it's a little bit different, but they are. They weren't 2-0 this time last year. So
it's a great segue. Brentwood playing at Dixon County this week, 1-1 for the Bruins. Dixon County 2-0, beating a Creekwood team, and they beat Columbia Central this past week. But I think that is a little bit different of what they're going to see this week for the Bruins as they come into town with the receiving core that we speak of. But Coach Murphy's done a really good job at Dixon thus far. What do the Bruins have to do to win?
just keep getting better, doing what they're doing. I mean, I don't think there's any way Dixon does beat them, but they got to show up and play hard, play disciplined. If they do that, they will. It's another step to get this offense firing on all cylinders. Again, he's a sophomore quarterback, but he's a talented one. It's a chance to gain him more confidence, get him more experience. There's a ton of playmakers on that offense. Let's get the ball to him.
All 5 receivers.
That's right.
Will get touches.
Nicholas will
3,
be over
maybe
100.
4 will score a touchdown. I'm going to put that right here.
love
Just
it.
remember that.
I'd like to see a special teams touchdown, punt return, kick return, something.
Independence 1-1, 0-0 in region play at Centennial 0-2. This would be a huge statement win for Centennial to get them to correct the ship, to get it right. What does Centennial have to do to stop this air attack of the Eagles?
Keep hitting the big plays. They're going to have to do that. I don't think they're a 10, 12 drive team, so keep finding ways to get big plays with Grayson Marcel in the passing game. Obviously, Jariel, find ways to get him the ball. And then, I think he's going to have to play as much offense as he can.
Well, Jariel Wilson being as good as he is on the ground, George Odomegwu, there's a lot of similarities there. Defense for Indy, I'm just going to tell you, we gave up 42 points. There's a chance. They have to get a stop or two on a couple series and to give themselves a chance. So Centennial's defense is the key in this one, if you ask me.
No doubt.
Page 2-0 at Franklin County, who's also 2-0. Did the Patriots go to 3-0 like last year?
I think so. It's going to be their passing game against Franklin County's running game. So we'll see. But I think
The wing tee.
The wing tee. Whew.
Yes, the wing tee's not enough. Cade Walker.
I
Michael
think
Burdick,
Cade
103
Walker
yards
and
for
Michael
9
Burdick are
receptions.
special.
I'm just telling you, Cade Walker is playing exceptionally well. Defense, obviously, key on this one for the Patriots. Michael Burdick in the back. If they do happen to throw one of the 4 times that Franklin County may throw, be ready. Tight end drag across the middle, at the most inopportune times. But, Page is playing really well.
Yeah. Same kind of deal. Get the ball back. Get the ball back. We want our offense with the ball.
Speaking of Wing T, Summit 1-1 versus White County, who's 0-2.
Do you know what White County's mascot is?
Spartans.
The Battle of the Spartans.
It's Battle of the 300 right here, but they're not Sparty enough. I'm just going to tell you right
no.
now. Another big game, another growing moment for Destin Wade. Geo goes off. That's what that stands for. And he's going to have a big game against White County. Nolensville versus Spring Hill. This is a huge game for the Knights, if you ask me, to go up 1-0 in the region. Spring Hill kind of floundering, faltering right now. Does the Knights roll in this game?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. Now, Spring Hill can score some points, I believe. They've got some guys that can make plays, but yeah, I think they do. I mean, I think they definitely win. And well, here's what's going to be cool: Colton Doley's going to be over 10 touchdowns in 3 games, over 500 yards.
So you're already predicting 2 for him.
Oh, without a doubt, maybe 3, 4. I don't know. The guy's on fire, and I love him, man.
He gets fired up in the game.
Dang right, he's physical. He gets downhill, buddy.
Fairview 1-1 at Stewart County 0-2. Stewart County, just to let you know, has given up 63 combined points in their first 2 wins.
That's not good.
Losses. You know, I don't have my.
Your tombstone?
So make sure we put the Popcorn City up right now for this game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's Popcorn City.
Popcorn City for the Jackets as they move to 1-0 in Region 6 3A play. All right, let's do it. Pick'ems. Here we go. Ravenwood at Franklin. That's a tough one, my friend. Who are you going with?
It's tough. I think Ravenwood, because I think Ravenwood's the best team in the region. But I'm telling you, this is by no means easy. It's a close game.
Woo! I'm going to shock you right here. The Rebellion and a shocker over Ravenwood. Indy at Centennial. Who do you have?
I got to go with Independence.
I agree. Right now, Centennial not playing the best. I think Jario Wilson still has a good game. I think this one's a little closer than what you're expecting, though.
I think it's a good game.
Still think Independence.
A lot of points.
Wins this.
Take the over.
Page at Franklin County.
Page, 3-0.
3-0. I agree with you. Fairview.
Popcorn City.
Brentwood at Dixon County. Another Popcorn City game.
Could be.
Could be.
Brentwood.
Okay.
It's
Knowlesville Spring Hill. This one's got you a little bit concerned.
I'm going with Nolo, man. I think we run the table this week.
Okay, I like it. Summit versus White County.
Oh, could be Popcorn City.
Could be Popcorn City.
Is Popcorn City.
So just for the G2 Bar faithful out there, I had to pick opposite of you, but I do think Franklin is so close. I think the game gets over because it's been the second half, the tail of the second half of Ravenwood. Franklin gets them, holds them off on a late charge from the Raptors. Man, this is going to be a fun one coming down to Region 6 6A play as we go throughout this season.
Without a doubt, man. I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. Oh, and that's on Franklin's turf, too.
Brand new, no way you didn't take it into account. No way they lose at home. Don't make me look like a liar, Rebellion. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.